Okay, I think in the interest of time, we should get started. My name is Ed Mabaya, I'm a professor in global development. Good day, good afternoon for those in Ithaca. It's a beautiful Earth day, beautiful weather here. And for those who are joining us online, good day, whatever time zone you're in. It is my honor today to introduce today's speaker, who has been named the 2026 Distinguished Speaker in Global Development. That title alone should tell you something. But this biography of the speaker is truly extraordinary. I don't use that word lightly. Professor Arthur Mutambara is currently the director and full professor at University of Johannesburg Institute for Future Knowledge, where he leads Decentralized Artificial Intelligence and Control Systems Research Group. But his career path spans a remarkable range of roles. I'm going to list a few of his roles here in the interest of time. He's a graduate of Oxford University, Rhodes Scholar, research scientist at NASA, visiting professor at MIT and Carnegie Mellon's Robotics Institute, management consultants at McKinsey and Company. He's the author of 6 books. Pardon that, it looks like 7. You can see from the front here, all of them very thick. And including engineering textbooks that are used across the US, Europe, China, Japan, and also in Africa. He is a former Deputy Prime Minister of Zimbabwe and one of the key principals who created and led the government of national unity in Zimbabwe from 2009 to 2013. He's also a chartered engineer, a fellow of the Institute of Engineering and Technology, a fellow in the Zimbabwean Academy of Sciences, and a senior member of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. For more details, there's a full Wikipedia site about him that you can read. I think you'd rather hear from him than hear me go through all his accomplishments. What unites all these roles is his rare ability to operate at the intersection of deep technical expertise and real-world complexity. This is exactly the combination that is needed to answer the question, what can AI do beyond efficiency and profit to become a genuine engine of equity and shared human flourishing? Please help me, join me in welcoming Professor Arthur Mutambara, our distinguished guest.
Professor Mabaya, thank you for that propaganda. Propaganda spreading over my name, but thank you so very much, you and your colleagues, for inviting me to Cornell. We are talking about how we can leverage AI to drive inclusive development and shared prosperity. The structure of our conversation is going to be about what we mean by inclusive development, what we mean by shared prosperity. And then we look at the SDGs and the notion of the Global South. Then we do a brief introduction into AI. And then we look at potential applications of AI that can help us advance inclusive development and shared prosperity. And then we conclude. That's all. That's what we're doing today. Now, we are in the Global Development Department. It's important that we drive global development. What are we saying? We are focusing on improving the quality of life for all people. We're enhancing well-being across countries and across all societies globally, recognizing that nations and populations have varying levels of economic, social, and human progress. So we start with an understanding of global development and say, how do we promote sustainable long-term improvements rather than short-term emergency relief? That's what we're trying to do, and saying, how do we use AI to achieve that? And when we say inclusive development, when we say shared prosperity, we are saying development and economic growth must be inclusive, must include all communities, must include all people. Economic prosperity must be shared, which means GDP per capita is more important than GDP. Tell us about the GDP per capita. Tell us about the size of the middle class. Tell us about the distribution of the wealth within a nation. In other words, Gini coefficient is more important than just general GDP. Also, the idea of GDP of the poor, where you look at GDP, that includes communities, their natural resources, their ecosystems, their environmental liabilities and dependencies. So when we say inclusive development, we have to think differently and think about the GDP of the poor. Think about the developmental state, a state that actively promotes inclusive development and shared prosperity. That's what we're trying to do and saying, can we use AI to achieve this? Can we use AI to achieve inclusive development and shared prosperity? What are the issues? Poverty. Poverty is so artificial, it's so unreal in this day and age. Why are we having poverty? Why are we having hunger? Hunger is so unreal. Agriculture, education, these are the issues we are saying, can we somehow make hunger a thing of the past? Can we reduce poverty across the world? Can we drive agriculture? Can we drive education? Can we drive healthcare? Can we talk about financial inclusion? Can we talk about financial literacy? Can we talk about entrepreneurship? How can we use AI to address this agenda? That's what we're trying to do in this seminar. These are the issues we're grappling with. We are saying today, let us link AI to human development. Let us use AI to drive human development and preserve the planet. That's what we're seeking to do using AI, which means we must understand sustainable development as a balance between economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental protection, ensuring that the needs of the present are met without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Can we use AI to achieve this? Can we work together in the global south and global north to achieve this? Where we're saying people, prosperity, partnership, and peace, at the center of it, we have sustainable development. Okay? Just to make sure you understand, this idea of sustainable development is not without its critics. It's not without disagreement. Some people are not impressed by this idea. They say, no. Sustainable development cannot be an end in itself. Sustainable development must deliver socio-economic transformation. That is a requirement we're coming through in the global south, in Africa. We must improve the quality of life of all people for it to be sustainable development. It must mean that, again, inclusive economic growth and shared prosperity are achieved. A starving peasant in Ethiopia, in Zimbabwe, cannot have a green agenda. How can you ask me when I'm starving to say, be green? I'll eat grass and cause deforestation because I'm hungry. So a starving peasant can have no green agenda. So let us solve poverty so we can be green together. A woman, a man who has never experienced an electric bulb cannot condemn fossil fuels. We want to stop oil and coal. I've never experienced electricity in my life. I've never seen an electric bulb. I can't join you in your war on coal. So we must solve the issue of energy poverty. Energy poverty is a problem number one globally, and in particular in the global south. Energy transition, so-called, must be anchored on the poor people's terms. These are the issues we must grapple with when we say sustainable development, and then ask ourselves how we use AI to achieve this. Museveni has got a very interesting position on this. He says, I've never seen sustainable pregnancy. The baby must be born, grow into a teenager, and become an adult. So don't oversell sustainable development, but deliver. Okay, and the SDGs are a good starting point. When you say, let us link AI to human development, a good starting point is the SDG. Why? Because they cover everything. 7 goals for the planet and for the people, right? If you look at those, anything you can think of about development is there. So why don't we go 1 to 17 and say, can I get goal number 1 using AI? Can I get goal number 2 done using AI? Up to 17. That is the agenda. That is the mission we seek to achieve in this seminar. To walk through and say, can we link AI to human development? But more particularly, can we use AI to achieve goal number 1 up to 17? Okay? And we have 169 targets, 232 indicators, 195 countries, including the Vatican. The Vatican is a country. The Vatican has been, the Pope has been beefing and riffing with Trump. So it must be a country if the leader is fighting the president. Anyway, and also the state of Palestine. when you look at Palestine, what's going on there, how can we achieve SDGs in 195 countries? How do we use AI to achieve the goals? How do we use AI to do the monitoring, the evaluation, to track the targets, to look at the indicators in 195 countries? You can see AI has a role, one, in achievement of the goals, number two, in measuring and monitoring progress, okay? That's what we're pushing for. And in particular, we are now saying, let's have a circular economy, sustainable citizen communities. Let us have responsible consumption and production. How can we make sure AI is a vehicle in pursuit of the circular economy as opposed to a linear economy? We have an opportunity to do ESG using AI. That is what we seek to do. Global South. Why we emphasize Global South? Because these are what we call emerging and least industrialized countries. Most of those problems, poverty, hunger, lack of access to health, are challenges that we see in the Global South. So that's why we say, okay, we must have development globally everywhere, but also in particular, focus on the Global South. Why? Because there are 6.6 billion people in the Global South, 1.4 in the Global North. So the Global South is the global majority. So when you solve the problems of the Global South, you've solved the problem of the majority of the world. So that's why we need to give special attention to the Global South, because 6.6 billion people, global Africa, Africa in this diaspora, 2.2 billion people, Africa on its own, 1.4 billion people, global North, 1.4 billion people. So when we say, let us have inclusive development and shared prosperity, if we can achieve it in the Global South, we've achieved it in the majority of the world. And in any case, in the Global South, that's where most of the challenges are. So always remember, the Global South is the global majority. But as you can see, look at the top countries in terms of per capita income. No country is there from the Global South. So you can see why we must focus on the Global South, because when we say per capita income, the top 10, none of them are from the Global South, okay? Gini coefficient, the most hard-hit countries are in the Global South. South Africa, for example, is the most unequal society in the world. So let us focus on these countries, reduce the size of the coefficient. Coefficient goes from 0 to 1 or 0 to 100%. South Africa is about 66% or 0.66. We must focus on the size of the middle class. We must focus on the Gini coefficient. We must focus on GDP per capita and say, how do we use technology? How we use AI to address the issues of inequalities? And Africa is a special part, and we're talking about 1.4 billion people, a collective GDP of $3.4 trillion. And also, as you talk about Africa, please don't underestimate our size. The geography you taught us, Mabaya, was very biased in your professors. How can 6,400 be smaller than 7,200? So you people in the global north don't want us to realize our size. You tell us we're small. So the normal maps we have in our investor representation, we must realize the size of Africa, the resources, the gold, and so on, by acknowledging the size. That's a travesty of geography. Okay? And you can see that US, China, India can all fit into Africa. That's how massive Africa is. The question is, how do we unlock the values of Africa? The natural resources, the geography, and the land mass to unlock economics. What do we mean by AI? AI, briefly, is if we can have the things we take for granted in a machine, learning, problem solving, decision making in a machine. That's all. That's AI for you, if we can do that in a machine. And of course, deep learning is a part of machine learning. Machine learning is a part of AI. I know we're coming from different fields. All I want you to do is to have a rudimentary understanding of AI. You don't have to be an expert, but AI is an equal opportunity technology that affects everyone. So we must understand a bit of it and understand what we call the AI stack. At the base of it all is energy. You can't do AI without energy. Then you have your chips, your NPUs, GPUs, and CPUs. Then you have your infrastructure, your data centers and AI factories. You have your models, your LLMs, and so on. And then you have your applications. What we're saying is, in the global south, all over the world, we must address energy for AI. We must also participate in the crafting of those chips. We must have data centers. We must have AI factories. We must also construct the models. And more importantly, applications for agriculture, applications for health, applications for all these sectors that will drive inclusive development and shared prosperity. Okay? Just a brief, from this man is leading the biggest corporation in the world. And so let's see what he's going to say. Okay, so you have a sense of the structure. So when you say AI, always remember energy, always remember the chips, always remember the AI factories and data centers, always remember the models and then the applications. And we in the global south are saying we must be participants in all those layers. And in terms of the taxonomy, single task AI is the basic task, multitask AI, generative AI is the big one. Why there's a revolution right now is because of what is called generative AI. And now we're moving, 2026, agentic AI is moving through. And in future, we're having AGI and superintelligence. I think we'll talk about some of these things tomorrow. But for now, I want to concentrate on applications. I want to concentrate on the opportunities. And tomorrow we'll deal with some of the dangers and also some of the advantages like AGI and ASI. Okay? So, and the LLMs, these are the key drivers of the revolution. Why don't we use these models to come up with solutions for water, solutions for education, for healthcare, for industry, so we can drive inclusive development and prosperity? Why do we call it a revolution? Why are we saying AI revolution? Because AI is at the same level as fire. When fire was discovered 1 million years ago. It is at the same level as the wheel 5,500 years ago when the wheel was discovered. It is at the same level of the steam engine in 1712 and 1760. And also at the same level as the practical use of electricity. So that's why everyone and your grandmother is talking about AI, because it's a revolution at the level of fire, at the level of the wheel, at the level of the steam engine, at the level of electricity. That's why every day on CNN, ABC, SABC, there's an AI item, because it's a revolution of that layer, of that level, of affecting every sector. Now we are saying, why can't we use this revolutionary technology, this transformative technology, to achieve inclusive development and shared prosperity? Okay, just to dramatize why it's a revolution, 10% of global GDP this year will come from AI. And $4.1 trillion, which is like 3.7%, will come from one type of AI, which is generative AI. What are we saying? The entire Japanese economy is equivalent to one type of AI. That's a revolution. The entire Japanese economy is equivalent to one type of AI. Why are we having this revolution? Why is it such a major deal? One word, productivity, productivity, productivity. AI has a staggering impact on productivity. Production per person has shot up. We are saying, if there's so much productivity per person, can we not leverage it to achieve inclusive development and shared prosperity? That's our mandate. Others are using AI for weapons and everything else and so on. We are just focusing on hunger. We are focusing on healthcare. We are focusing on poverty, using that same technology that's their productivity. What are we saying? Last week, you are producing 1,000 units. This week, 20,000 because of AI. Last week, 1,000 units. This week, 50,000 because of AI. It's what is called a productivity multiplier, productivity escalator. That's why there's a revolution, the impact on productivity by AI. If you want more explanation, we say escalation of productivity, enhanced efficiency, cost savings, and increased innovation. What we're saying is, why don't we have those 4 drivers help us achieve inclusive development and shared prosperity? That efficiency, those cost savings, that productivity, that innovation, can we not use it to address hunger, access to water, access to sanitation, quality of education, quality of healthcare, manufacturing? That is our challenge, that is our mandate. Okay, another illustration today, if you Google it or you use your ChatGPT to tell you that NVIDIA right now is $4.86 trillion. One company that does hardware for AI, NVIDIA. It is the biggest company in the world. $4.86 trillion. What does it mean? If it was a country, it would be number 4 after US, China, and Germany. One AI company that does hardware for AI. What can we do with that level of productivity to help? Just to dramatize again, you thought mining was big, Rio Tinto, PHP, they're like Mickey Mouse compared to NVIDIA. AI is the economy is AI. If you are not in the AI, you are not in the economy. Okay? You thought McDonald's was a company, you thought Coca-Cola was big, you thought Netflix was something. Amazon, Walmart, they're nothing compared to NVIDIA. We're dramatizing the revolution. We're dramatizing the essence of AI, while AI is a revolution. All the banks in America and Canada are smaller than NVIDIA. And we are simply saying, if we have such economies coming out of AI, surely there's something we can do about poverty using that technology. He's talking about 20, all these millionaires come out of AI, and he's worth $150 billion. We're saying, can we say to ourselves, how many people can AI help move out of poverty? That's our question. China was able to move 800 million people out of poverty in 40 years before AI, and they're still doing so now. Can we learn from China? China is dominating AI. Can we learn as the global south, as Africa, from China, so we can move people out of poverty using AI? That is our mandate. Why do we keep saying Africa as opposed to Zimbabwe or Nigeria or Kenya? The amount of energy required cannot come from one country like South Africa or Nigeria or Zimbabwe. Right now, some companies in Silicon Valley are having their own nuclear power plants to power AI. One data center, one AI factory has a requirement of about 2 gigawatts, which is the equivalent of Zimbabwe's entire energy requirement. So if we're going to do AI in Africa around energy, we have to work as SADC, as ECOWAS, as Africa to get economies of scale. To do one LLM, you need $100 million. To do one LLM, you need 100 PhDs in one room working on that. We can't get that in Nigeria, in Zimbabwe, or in South Africa. But if we work together as 1.4 billion Africans, with a collective GDP of $3.4 trillion, we can get the scale. So we in Africa are saying, for us to drive inclusive development, for us to have shared prosperity using AI, we must work as United States of Africa. 1.4 billion people, collective GDP, $3.4 trillion. We need the scale that AI presents. Okay? And then we have a national vision in each country, a national strategy in each country, an implementation plan in each country, but we also have the same at regional and continental level. Okay? What are some of the examples? Let's see whether we can get the sound going on this. Where's the guy with the sound? He's just, boost my sound, please. Okay, in agriculture, in healthcare, in financial services, in education, in public services. If we do this, we'll be able to say we are on our way to inclusive development. We are on our way to the promised land of shared prosperity. Okay? Agriculture is a natural. Most of the economies in Africa, in the global south, are agrarian economies. Therefore, agriculture applications are important. Precision farming, crop monitoring, disease detection, all these are potential applications of AI. Let us use AI to drive agriculture. Okay? Robotics applications in agriculture, the drones in agriculture. Okay? Mining, most of our economies are driven by mining. There are so many applications in mining. Why don't we use AI in mining so that we're more productive, we're efficient, we're innovative? Predictive equipment maintenance, mineral exploration and mapping, autonomous drilling and hauling, all these are applications in the mining sector. When we do this, we'll be able to drive economic growth, but at the same time, make sure the growth is shared. Okay? So it's important that we embrace mining in South Africa, in the Caribbean, in Asia, and globally. There are major applications we can have in the mining sector where we use AI to achieve crushing optimization using AI, stockpile planning and optimization using AI, grinding circuit optimization using AI, flotation optimization using AI. All these are applications in the mining sector. Infrastructure is a key enabler of all sectors of the economy. Smart traffic management, predictive maintenance, all these are potential applications in the infrastructure sector. And again, we learn from our Chinese friends. Again, we can use the drones to build our bridges, to build our infrastructure. Energy is a very interesting one. AI is an enemy when it comes to energy because it demands so much energy. It causes us to burn more fossil fuels, nuclear plants. It requires lots of water. So it's a problem. It's a double-edged sword. It demands so much energy, working against the climate change agenda. So, but potentially also you can use it to generate more energy, to manage energy. So always remember AI has a problem when it comes to energy because it worsens the climate catastrophe by the demands, 2 gigawatts for one data center. Companies setting up their own nuclear power plants to power AI. However, you can use AI to do energy generation by doing the following. Okay, that's the other good side of AI: clean energy. Okay, powering your and managing your power, okay, lots of applications there, solar, and then manage energy management, again, applications of AI. Okay, manufacturing, huge applications of AI there. We are talking about applications of AI that will ensure us have, okay, healthcare, major issue, access to healthcare, quality of healthcare, lots of applications of AI in the healthcare sector in well-being, disease diagnosis, personalized treatment plans, mental health monitoring, drug discovery, telemedicine, all these things can be done using AI. Then research, AlphaFold, 200 million protein structures being done at MIT and Harvard there, and large-scale AI modeling. There are major applications. Why don't we use AI to drive our knowledge around biology? Okay. many applications in manufacturing, also pushing economic growth, quality of life, driverless cars. Okay, and in Africa, we're coming through as well. Rwanda's got a self-flying taxi. Okay, banking and finance, fraud detection, risk assessment, algorithmic trading, customer service chatbots. There is no sector which is not affected by AI. What we need to do is to say, let us look at financial inclusion. Let us look at financial literacy. How do we improve financial literacy using AI? How do we improve financial inclusion? Cell phone banking, SMEs, microfinance, all those things can be driven by AI. Education, very important. Personalized learning, virtual tutors. We are saying, can we improve the access to education using AI? Can we improve the quality of education using AI? Okay? And so that we can say we are doing well in terms of inclusive development. The Chinese have said from the age 6, you now start doing AI. And if Mr. Trump came through and said, I'm going to do the same. But the Chinese are more serious. They've implemented it as of September 2025. We must introduce AI at a very early age. And then in the academy, we'll talk about this tomorrow. We must make sure that entrepreneurship, digital skills, financial literacy, and AI skills are mandatory subjects for every student at Cornell. I could care less whether they're studying history, philosophy, law, vet science, agriculture, or engineering. You must do financial literacy as a subject. You must do entrepreneurship as a subject. You must do digital skills as a subject. You must do AI training as a subject. But we are saying it's important that we live with this revolution to have personalization in education, a unique teaching assistant, a unique personal tutor, and all these are drivers in the educational sector. In government and politics, again, policy analysis, policy making, decision making, management of elections, so that we can minimize and manage rigging. There's no rigging in the global south of elections. AI can help us solve the issue of fraudulent elections, resource allocation, application legal systems. Of course, there are challenges, but we can be done. Some views from Africa. That's Strive Masiwa, the owner of Aeronautics, and they're working with NVIDIA to bring data centers into Africa. Let's see what he's got to say. Okay, another one, an entrepreneur of Vusi. Okay, OpenAI. See, the dangers of AI, we'll speak about that tomorrow. For example, critical thinking, using ChatGPT in your classroom. We'll talk about how to get around it tomorrow. How to make sure the professors can get ahead of the students on the subject. But for today, we're concentrating on the positive, on the amplification of economic growth using AI. We are also pushing a writing culture. We must write. And most of the things I talked about are in my last two books there. That one there, where we talk about deploying AI to achieve the UN's SDGs, it's covered in that book there. And then the issue of the global south and AI is covered on the book. We must write. We must contribute to thought leadership in the AI revolution. Okay? As we finish, we are saying we must leverage AI to achieve inclusive development and shared prosperity. One can say, can it be done? Isn't it too complicated? One word, potential for the global south, leapfrogging. You know, when the mobile telephone came through, we didn't have enough physical phones. We didn't have enough brick and mortar banks. What did we do? We moved from no communication to mobile communication, from no banking to banking on the phone. Today, when I say M-Pesa, when I say EcoCash, there's nothing in America that is as good as EcoCash or M-Pesa. There's nothing in Japan, there's nothing in Europe that is good as M-Pesa or EcoCash. Not because they can't do it, but because our poverty, our lack of infrastructure was a motivation for us to move from no banking to banking on the phone. Why would you bank on your phone when the ATM machine is in your bedroom, when the ATM machine is next door? So our lack of infrastructure, our poverty was a motivator to leapfrog. So we are saying with AI, can't we also look at some of these technologies and leapfrog from no technology to AI? That's what we're saying. Yes, it can be done. It can be done. Can it be done? It can be done. And also, ignorance. Ignorance is good. Yes, we're saying this at Cornell, ignorance is good. Not knowing how tough a task is a good thing. Okay, a special kind of ignorance is good. Okay? Irreverence, lack of respect for tough tasks. That's easy, I can do it. That's positive. So we are saying there's a kind of ignorance that is good. There's a kind of irreverence that is positive. And we're learning from the best, we're learning from AI. Here's the man behind the video. What does he say? Now you understand why we're saying some degree of ignorance is good. And irreverence is a positive. We need a can-do mentality. Let us have a healthy dose of ignorance and irreverence. We must take a plunge and use AI to achieve inclusive development and shared prosperity. We must always remember everything rises or falls on leadership, on urgency, and sheer determination. No guts, no glory. I thank you so very much. And I'm right on time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. What a talk. We have some 10 minutes for Q&A. If you can identify yourself, quickly make your question as brief as possible so we can accommodate many. And those online, you can type your question. We'll try to get to them as well. So let's start there and then Benga. Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Sorry. This is kind of a loaded question, but I'm really interested in your response to the arguments that increasing autonomous AI in agriculture and seeing all of the dystopian novels and literature that's written about machine taking over teaching and taking over this connection that we have as people with teachers and that we have as people with our agriculture. How do you respond to the arguments that AI could potentially reduce the number of jobs and our human connection to these vital
Listen, we'll talk a lot about that tomorrow. I hope you'll be able to come tomorrow. We'll talk about the promise and peril of AI. You can't fight technology. Once the genie is out of the bottle, you can put it back. So there'll be the downside of AI. But there'll be the positive. What we need to do is to actively say, how do we make sure we empower the small-scale farmer? We empower the poor woman and poor men in the village so that they can use mobile telephony, use AI to be productive, to be efficient and innovative. Yes, there's a danger that the big companies might come with data and overtake, but you can't fight technology. What you need to do is to say, how do we make it work for us? And how do we make sure that that's why we are seeking to say, can we actively say, AI can be used in the army. The war in Iran is AI enabled. Okay, it can be used in many other sectors, but we are focusing on hunger. So we actively come up with applications for food security, applications for healthcare, applications for agriculture. So the dangers are there, but we can circumvent them by being proactively addressing what we want. But we can never be fully say that we stop the big pharma from taking over. So the danger has always been there, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. And what we need is urgency and focus on the 17 SDGs. But there's always a danger in education, a danger in industry, but we'll talk about some of those things tomorrow. But
just
always remember, you can't ban technology. When the genie is out of the bottle, you can put it back.
a quick plug. There's an AI in Global South tomorrow, happening in this room all day. It's organized by the Institute for African Development. So
and I will focus on the
invited,
data. I'll talk about the data.
He's a keynote speaker for that as well. Yes.
But thanks for the question.
Thank you so much. So in the past, we've had a lot of similar narratives around sort of using a technical fix to address poverty, hunger, and all of these problems that you've described. And so, for example, we had that with the internet as well, where it was, the internet is going to help us solve poverty and hunger with telecoms. And in Africa specifically, we've had telecoms billionaires, we've had fintech billionaires. So to a very large extent, and like you mentioned, these technologies, flourish, they've been adopted, but the problems still remain. And that's because they were unable to go around like issues of like state capacity, political inequalities. What makes AI special, and how is AI going to go around this like larger societal issues that is really driving poverty, that makes you think that we can?
Yeah, number one, all you've said is important. Governmental policy frameworks, state intervention, all these things are important. However, let me emphasize this. You talk about mobile telephone. Yes, the billionaires, like Masiwa is a billionaire, but also remember, right now as we speak, my grandmother, your grandmother in the village is transacting on the phone. They're now in the economy through financial inclusion using mobile telephony. So you can never stop the billionaires to come through, but you can also use it to empower people who have never seen a phone before. They've never seen a physical phone. But now everyone and their grandmother have a mobile phone. They are transacting EcoCash, M-Pesa on the phone. So the telephony revolution, in a way, was able to drive a lot of empowerment on the continent. But you are very correct that we need to actively work on an ecosystem, governance, policy, strategy, and so on. But also, don't compare the internet with this thing here. Remember when I said this thing here is like fire, it's like the wheel, it's like the use of electricity. It's bigger than those revolutions. You never had examples like I've given you. So yes, the dangers are there, and I like your dosage of skepticism, but I want to urge you to understand this as a revolution. Imagine you're saying, we've just discovered fire. How's fire going to affect our activities? We've just discovered the wheel. This wheel, is it going to change much? Oh, we've just discovered the steam engine. we've just discovered electricity. What will this electricity changed everything? AI would change everything. But the key issue is to say, can we use it to solve our problems? And by the way, we have to be the creators of the solutions. You can't expect Silicon Valley to give you a program and a solution for agriculture, for energy alleviation, and we must do it as the global south, and those people in those countries must solve it. So what's new is this is a revolution. And just to dramatize, the other things were tools, by the way. Internet was a tool, fire was a tool, and mobile telephone was a tool. This one, when we talk about AGI tomorrow and super intelligence, AI is a tool which can make other tools. AI is a tool that makes a decision whether to, by the way, a tool can be used to kill or to cut butter, right? In your hands. But this AI will decide whether to cut butter or to kill people under super intelligence, under AGI. So it's a revolution. It's much bigger than the internet. It's much bigger than mobile telephony. But the very fears you talk about are going to be there. We must manage them through leadership, agency, and also governmental policies.
Yes. Next question over there, and then we'll come to you. I want to get someone on this side as well. Yes. Let's try to squeeze it.
So thank you. Thank you for your talk. I find it very interesting that you emphasize the need for equity, and I deeply agree with that. However, I think the difference between what should happen and what will happen is very clear. And when we look at leaders like Sam Altman or Mark Zuckerberg, it is apparent that when AGI gets here, it looks like they will give it to whichever country is willing to spend the most money. So how are we going to ensure that artificial intelligence is actually implemented to increase access and not to just worsen the issues that we already have at hand?
Very important. If we are not careful, AI, technology, all these things are going to increase the gap between the haves and the have-nots. They're going to exacerbate our problems if we just leave it to technology. That's why we must have agency that says, no, we are going to actively use technology to solve poverty. No, we are going to use technology to address the issue of hunger. No, we're going to use AI to address education. If you leave it to technology, to the billionaires, they will not do that. In other words, you're very correct. If we are not careful, it will simply be used to increase the gap between the haves and the have-not. But if we have agency, if we're organized as society, as universities, as governments, as multilateral institutions like World Bank, IMF, and the UN, we're not going to completely avoid what you're describing. And I hope you come tomorrow. There's a problem we call techno-feudalism, where this AI is controlled by 5 men, no women, 5 men are controlling AI technology. You can name them, 5, no woman, right? And they're not elected, but they decide what happens. And also the richest people, if you look at them, the top 6, there's no woman there. So if we're not careful, left to its own devices, it will simply exacerbate our problems. That's why we need to actively come up with governance, guardrails, come up with policies, and actively use the technology to solve our problems. But I concede that there's a danger. And I hope you'll be able to come tomorrow when we look at the dangers and how we can mitigate and manage. We can never stop the dangers. We can mitigate and manage. But I want to emphasize the issue of urgency, taking charge and saying we must use this technology for good. Don't assume that it will be used for good. It's used in the army. Right now, as we speak, it's used in Iran, it was used in Venezuela, and so on. I want it in agriculture. I want it in water. I want it in education. But I can't stop those guys from using it in the army. Yes. I can only do my part. But thanks for the question.
Next question. Is there any question online from the online audience? Okay, that's good. Please go ahead.
Yes, hello. Yeah, thank you, Professor, for a wonderful talk. I just want to have your views on what are your views on whether AI is a job creator or it will take job of many. Okay. Secondly, we are saying that AI is great for prosperity. Again, the question is prosperity for the limited people or it will be uniformly distributed. Thank you.
Yeah, jobs, they preempt my talk from tomorrow, but I'll talk about it. Number one, there's going to be job destruction because of AI. Get over that. That's the bad news. They can try to sugarcoat it for you, but I want to declare at Cornell that AI will create job destruction. That's the bad news. Number two, good news. AI won't destroy all jobs to modify most jobs. Most jobs won't die, they'll be modified. And then number three, there will be new jobs created by AI. So here's the question for you. The new jobs plus the modified jobs must be much, much more than the destroyed jobs. If we do that, then we're good. If we're not careful, the destroyed jobs will be much more than the modified and the new. So we have an equation that says new jobs plus modified jobs must be much, much more than the destroyed one. Then AI is good. If the reverse is true, then we're in trouble. But we'll speak about that tomorrow. Prosperity. Again, it keeps coming back. Unless we actively use it and say, let's drive education, it will create prosperity for the few. That's the natural instinct. That's why we write in this book to say, no. We want AI to solve poverty in Africa. No. We want AI to drive the 17 SDGs. Unless we proactively do that, then prosperity will be for the few. But if we work together and are having urgency, maybe it will be reasonably shared, but it's not guaranteed. But hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.
That's the perfect note on which to end. Please help me thank God.